Chaos and terror in Lebanon tonight as the country reels from another mysterious attack, another day of wireless devices exploding, this time walkie-talkies. Now people are scared of what could blow up next. I'm Gadi Schwartz, and this is Stay Tuned Now. Today, at least 20 people were killed in Lebanon and hundreds of others hurt when walkie-talkies owned by Hezbollah members exploded across the country, including a blast at a funeral for 4 victims killed in yesterday's pager attacks. Now, the explosion sent the crowd into a panic there with reports of people shouting, "Turn off your phone and take out the battery." These walkie-talkies blew up in people's homes, their cars, and their hands, with Lebanese authorities identifying them as ICOM V82s. You can kind of make that out in some of these pictures here. Authorities also confirmed that the Lebanese government did not buy these through the official distributor, while ICOM's website says this model, the V82, is one of the most frequently counterfeited products. 2 U.S. officials tell NBC News that Israel is responsible, and while Israel hasn't commented directly on the explosions, today its defense minister announced that Israel is, quote, at the start of a new phase in the war, turning its attention to the north. NBC international correspondent Raf Sanchez has more from Israel. Raf?
Hey there. For a second day in a row, we are seeing a chain of explosions ripping through Lebanon. Yesterday, it was pagers belonging to Hezbollah members which detonated. Today, according to Lebanese state media, it's walkie-talkies. It appears that there were fewer explosions today, but that they were more powerful. We are seeing fires in different areas across Lebanon, reports of fatalities in a number of different areas. And at this point, Lebanon's hospitals are really struggling to deal with this influx of more than 3,000 wounded people. This is a major public health emergency. And Hezbollah, the powerful Iranian-backed militant group, really seems unable to get its arms around what U.S. officials tell NBC News is a large-scale covert Israeli operation. Israel seems to have penetrated their most sensitive networks, targeting both Hezbollah personnel, fighters and leaders, but also its different communication systems. Now, the Israeli government is still refusing to say whether or not it was responsible, but earlier tonight, the Israeli defense minister says the war is entering a new phase with troops and resources shifting from the fight against Hamas in Gaza to the fight against Hezbollah on the Lebanese border. And this is in an effort to try to create conditions for those tens of thousands of displaced Israeli citizens to return to their homes in the north of this country. We should say there are tens of thousands of Lebanese civilians who were displaced by the fighting on the other side of the border. Now, 2 U.S. officials tell NBC News that Israel did inform the United States it was planning something in Lebanon, but it didn't give specifics, and that the Biden administration was caught off guard when those pagers started exploding. Those officials stress the U.S. was not involved in this operation. Back to you.
Raf Sanchez, thank you. And joining us again today is Evan Coleman, terrorism expert and founder of Cloudburst Technologies. Evan, thanks so much for being with us again today. A security source telling Reuters that these walkie-talkies might have been bought by Hezbollah around the same time as the pagers. Based on some of these pictures that you've seen, what's exploding here? Are these booby-trapped batteries, possibly something else? And from what we're hearing, the explosions today are much bigger than they were yesterday, right?
Yeah, it's interesting because obviously when it came to the pagers, something that would be connected to the internet, you could understand how, they could put malware in that might cause the pager to overload, heat up, et cetera, ignite, an explosive that's contained within. The walkie-talkie, it's a little bit more of a question exactly how they did this. It's also interesting because you see it's not just a one-trick pony. It's not like they just infiltrated one supply chain. This is pretty extensive. And I think, I understand why some of these Hezbollah fighters were running around today, frantically taking batteries out of their phones and throwing them away. It's concerning. Hezbollah has acknowledged just today, 15 of their fighters have been killed. That's in addition to the 12 they acknowledged yesterday. Obviously, that's what they're acknowledging formally. These are big numbers in the context of what's been going on. Even despite the tit for tat battles that have been going on with the Israeli military, these are big numbers.
And like you just said, I mean, this isn't just an attack on one part of one supply chain. This clearly shows that there are multiple supply chains that have been infiltrated. What could come next?
Well, that's exactly, I think, unfortunately, what Hezbollah is probably asking themselves, which is, they've got the pagers, they've got the walkie-talkies, like, what's next? Hezbollah does rely on an extensive internet-based infrastructure in order to conduct communications, release propaganda, et cetera. It uses that infrastructure to try to shield the locations of its senior personnel and leadership, like, for instance, its top leader, Hassan Nasrallah. I think there's going to be concerns here that Israel may have more information about the locations of these individuals and may, attempt to launch further strikes targeting them, similar to what we've seen in recent weeks. Again, I think this is going to cause a lot of instability in the ranks of Hezbollah, a lot of question marks among them, how this was carried out. I don't think they have a full understanding right now. It probably will take them a while to gain a full understanding. And until then, they have to suspect that there are other surprises that are sort of waiting for them.
Is that, these playbooks obviously are not shared, but is that the point here? Is the idea to kind of terrorize Hezbollah into believing that they could get blown up at any time by the things that they're carrying around on a daily basis?
Yeah, look, there's been a lot of discussion about how, Israel lost the element of strategic initiative, following the October 7th attacks, and that, the ingenuity was in the hands of the insurgents and whatnot. And I think since then, Israel has been trying to regain back that initiative in the sense that they are in control of the battlefield, the battle space. They can bring kind of unique technological contributions to the battle space that really change the nature of what's going on. Needless to say, if Hezbollah suddenly is resorting to smoke signals to communicate with its fighters, its followers, et cetera, that's a problem for this organization, right? It's a problem for its leadership. It's a problem for its morale. It's a problem, period. We remains to be seen again how extensive this problem now pervades beyond what we've seen so far, but it is quite remarkable what they have done.
It sure is from a technological standpoint. And yet, you have to think of a lot of the collateral damage that we're also seeing here and wonder whether, after we saw what we saw in Israel and then in Gaza, if the threshold for collateral damage has possibly been changed. What do you think?
I mean, this is the problem, right? Especially with the larger explosions that were reported today is that those kind of explosions are taking place not on a battlefield, but in civilian areas. And there's certainly a likelihood, or at least a possibility, that innocent bystanders are going to be hit by those explosions, right? Now, there has been a calculus made here that the balance is in favor of going after individuals that are clear and present danger to Israel's security. But this is a question that, I think it's not just in this context, it's also in other contexts. Israel has repeatedly hideouts of Hamas folks in Gaza. Some of those hideouts have been very close to civilian areas. The question is it really worth it, right? It's a difficult question.
And I mean, yesterday we saw 12 dead from pager explosions. Israel was bracing. We saw them for possible retaliation from Hezbollah. At least civilians were inside of Israel. And then we see this, what now seems to be a 1-2 punch. The question is, does this continue to escalate? Is there any chance that these types of attacks will de-escalate, or are things just going to get a lot worse?
That's a good question. And we're kind of waiting to see right now what Israel is planning on doing. Are they really, going to escalate this conflict with Hezbollah into a full-scale war? Or is this just intimidation designed to try to get Hezbollah to withdraw from the border and to allow Israelis to kind of live peacefully in the northern areas? And right now, I don't think anyone really knows the answer to that. Hezbollah also has been firing a lot of rockets and drones at Israeli targets, but it's not clear what they want either. Is this just for motivation and leverage, or are they really looking to start a full-scale conflict with Israel? No one really knows right now.
Yeah, such uncharted territory. Evan Coleman, we really appreciate your expertise. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And breaking news tonight, as the New York judge has denied Sean Diddy Combs' request for bail once again, meaning the billionaire will remain in a federal jail until his sex trafficking trial starts. Today, the federal judge said Combs is dangerous and that the bail package offered by his team does not address enough of the concern that he might try to flee the country. NBC News entertainment correspondent Chloe Malas has more.
Hey there, Gadi. This is now the second time that a judge has denied Sean Diddy Combs bail, and now he will sit behind bars at a detention center in Brooklyn until trial. And that could be up to a year or even more, as there are pretrial hearings and motions and discovery that has to take place to get ready for a trial such as this. You know, one of the things I want to point out is that Combs's attorneys, they had actually written this filing to the court, which clearly the judge was not persuaded, which said that they were concerned with the conditions of this specific detention center, this jail in Brooklyn, which has housed other high-profile people like R. Kelly, like Michael Cohen. And they said that it had unfit conditions like food contamination, overcrowding, and that someone was even murdered over the summer. There had been suicides there. But again, clearly the judge just not buying it. Now, I do want to point out, though, what the government, what the prosecutors are saying. They are concerned about the fact that Combs is an alleged threat to society due to his violence and his propensity to violence. Remember that 2016 surveillance video that Combs brutally beating his then-girlfriend Cassandra Cassie Ventura in a hotel hallway. And again, that was initially published by CNN, and it was on the security cam footage. And it was really damning because he had originally denied, after Cassie filed her civil suit last year, detailing sex trafficking, detailing emotional and physical abuse. He had denied all of it. He said he wasn't capable of physical abuse and that it wasn't true. He did settle that lawsuit with her. And then months later, when that surveillance footage leaked and was published, that is when he walked it back and apologized, but he said it was a one-off incident. Well, the three things that he's charged with, I just want to remind you, it's sex trafficking, racketeering, conspiracy, and transportation to engage in prostitution. They talk about these freak-offs, as you and I have discussed before, which are these alleged elaborate sex parties that Combs would throw in which women were drugged and they had sex workers, and that people were forced to partake in these sex parties, and that they were even filmed and used against people in order to ensure their silence. And then they talk about RICO and the fact that Combs was allegedly running this billion-dollar empire, but that it was actually a criminal ring and that it was used to cover up his activity, and that there were staffers and other people and employees that worked for him that were complicit. And so the U.S. Attorney's Office saying earlier this week that they are not closing the door on potentially arresting other individuals, and they've asked anybody with information to continue to come forward, that they are continuing their investigation. But again, Combs has denied any wrongdoing, and his team is looking to fight all of the charges against him, saying that he is not looking to take a plea deal. Gadi?
Chloe Malas, thank you. Let's bring in NBC News legal analyst Angela Sinandela to talk more about the latest on Combs here. So Diddy's team offered this package on all the things they'd give up to try to keep Diddy out of custody. Obviously, it did not work, but what was in that package?
So first of all, Gadi, we didn't really expect it to work. This is basically just the same amount, the number that he offered to post yesterday, with just these amped up features, really just added surveillance. So this time he offered to stay in home detention, have things like a visitor log, have things like drug testing, and also have no female visitors except for very select ones. He really tried to offer this sense that he will not flee the country and that he will be observant and he will follow the rule. But the reason why the judge denied this, I think, obviously has to do with the trinity of dangerousness, obstruction of justice, and flight risk, as both the prosecution and the judge agreed upon. But I really think it comes down to the fact that Diddy cannot be trusted in the eyes of the law. So what the prosecution underscored here was that previously, Diddy's team insisted that he stayed away from grand jury witnesses. But according to an affidavit, a motion, a filing from the government side, they claim that he did actually visit witnesses, including a grand jury one, attempted to make contact even after he explicitly said that he didn't. So what is bail ultimately? Bail is a promise, right? It's a promise that you will return. Now, if the government and the judge thinks that you are not good on your promises, then you could offer them the world and they will reject it. It's also an interesting case where he's offering this enormous amount of money, $50 million. But ironically, that could hurt him, because if you have unlimited resources like he's presenting, you actually present more of a flight risk, as the judge noted here, Gadi.
It cuts both ways there. The lawyer for Combs is also seeming like they're complaining about this jail in Brooklyn, saying it's, quote, not fit for pre-trial detention. Are there any legal grounds to get him moved out of there?
Okay, so let's talk about this realistically. First of all, many lawyers for defendants say this all the time, and it's not because they really expect anything to happen. So I don't expect him to be moved. He's not going to be given special treatment, especially because a judge in a case like this is going to be averse to give special treatment just to someone who is famous. But what happens realistically is that then the center, the jail, takes extra care with this defendant to make sure that he's protected, because he is technically then in federal custody, which means nothing can happen to him. If something does happen to him, it is the government's responsibility and the government's fault. So it's possible that after you make these motions to a judge, after you exclaim how horrible the conditions are to your highfalutin celebrity defendant, then as a result, they will treat him with gloves. They will treat him more carefully, make sure that he is not in danger. It doesn't mean he's going to get first-class service. It just means they are probably not going to put him, for example, with a dangerous murderer, right, Gadi?
Yeah. And I mean, when we're looking at the timeline here, how long before a trial like this starts? And what goes into prep for a case with, I mean, racketeering at the center, plus this massive amount of publicity? And then what we heard today, the possibility that we could see more arrests.
So look, this is really, really hard for the defense. A RICO charge, racketeering, for prosecutors is this amazing tool where they can hold you responsible for things that you didn't do just by this enterprise, right? So it's this charge, the statute that was passed by the government in order to allow for you to be responsible for things that you may not have been otherwise. So what that means for defense counsel is you've got to cover so many bases. What's ironic here, though, is, again, if you look at the fact that he was denied bail and is in these conditions, he is actually going to want this case to move faster than if he were granted bail, right? So usually defense attorneys tend to delay. They want to just file motion after motion in order to give themselves more time. But in a case like this, we've heard his lawyers say they want a speedy trial, and that's because they don't want Diddy to stay in these conditions, Gadi.
And we'll see what speedy means soon. Angela Sinandela, thank you. An ex-movie mogul, Harvey Weinstein, also faced a new sex crime charge in New York. NBC News correspondent Ann Thompson has more on that.
More legal troubles for Harvey Weinstein tonight. Already serving a 16-year sentence for a rape that occurred in Los Angeles. The one-time movie mogul returned to a New York courtroom today to face a new indictment. Charged with a criminal sexual act in the first degree, accused of assaulting a woman at a New York hotel in the spring of 2006. The 72-year-old pleaded not guilty.
Mr. Weinstein has been very consistent from the time of his investigation. He never forced himself on anybody.
Weinstein will also be retried on the sex crimes, including rape he was convicted of in 2020. That guilty verdict, a landmark in the Me Too movement, was overturned this year. The state's highest court ruled it was wrong to allow women to testify about allegations against Weinstein that were not part of the case. Weinstein sat in a wheelchair with officers behind him. Just last week, he had emergency surgery to remove fluid from his heart and lungs. Louise Godbold is one of at least 80 women to accuse Weinstein of sexual harassment or assault.
Justice looks like him being in prison and not able to hurt any more people.
Both sides will be back in court next month to argue if these charges should be tried together. Ann Thompson, NBC News, New York.
And don't go anywhere. We are just getting started. Up next, the Fed doing something they haven't done in more than 4 years. But what does the interest rate cut mean for you in your everyday life? Our Brian Chung is going to break it all down. Plus, feeling the heat. American deaths blamed on extreme temperatures soaring in recent years, why the numbers might actually be higher than what's reported, and how communities are working to protect themselves. And later this hour, fighting the spread of conspiracy theories. Can chatbots help? Our Hallie Jackson takes that question to one of the masterminds of that project and the future of everything. Stay tuned.
I would say that a lot of conspiracy theorists end up being motivated by truth and accuracy. Going to a chatbot interface that provides factual information, it seems like a good way to do that to me.
Hey, welcome back. And here's some of the other headlines we're watching tonight. The Justice Department filed a claim today asking for more than $100 million in damages from the owner and operator of the Dolly container ship behind the deadly bridge collapse in Baltimore earlier this year. Now, this would cover the emergency response to the disaster and federal aid given out to port employees left without work. A DOJ official says they will also be seeking punitive damages. And Marine veteran Paul Whelan made his first public comments last night since being freed from Russia in August. Whelan spoke after meeting with lawmakers on Capitol Hill, where he said they discussed what can be done to better provide support for future detainees. He also revealed what's been the most surprising part of readjusting to life back in the States, and it's all this technology.
The technology that's available, electric cars, people being conveyed around with driverless vehicles, electric vehicles, all that sort of thing. The conditions were poor. The Russians said the poor conditions were part of the punishment, and coming back to see this sort of thing now is a bit of a shock, but it's a good shock.
Shock in the best kind of way. And the United Auto Workers Union is planning to hold the strike votes against Jeep maker Stellantis, claiming the automaker is failing to hold up parts of the deal they made last year. Now, this comes after local union chapters filed grievances against the company, claiming it's trying to move production of the Dodge Durango outside of the United States, something Stellantis has denied. And the State Department says the passport renewal process is finally going online. But right now, it's only available to adults whose passport expired in the past 5 years or will expire within the next year. The department hopes to expand the program over the next few years. And last night's game between the Padres and the Astros got a little footsie after Houston player Jose Altuve literally took off his shoe in protest of an umpire call. It all came down to whether a foul ball hit Altuve's left foot, which umpires ruled it did not. That's when the player took off his shoe to show what he claimed was a ball mark on his skin. But that only got him booted from the game. At least he wasn't wearing Red Sox. And for the first time in 4 years, the moment anyone trying to buy a car or a house has been waiting for might finally be coming into view. The Federal Reserve cutting interest rates today by 0.5 percentage point. That might sound small, but it is double what a lot of experts were predicting. And there is hope that that's going to have this huge impact on your wallet. But just how big and how fast? Well, let's bring in NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung with his economic crystal ball, or his version of the economic crystal ball, the magic big board there. Brian, big picture, what does this mean for the future of our economy?
Well, what it tells us is that we're hopefully avoiding a recession. Now, let's back up and explain exactly what the Federal Reserve was doing here and the reason why interest rates were so high in the first place. So, again, the reason that's, really why the Federal Reserve had interest rates as high as it was because of inflation. It was peaking at around 9% in the summer of 2022. So to address that, the Federal Reserve said, let's make these borrowing costs a little bit more expensive. They did that in the form of raising the federal funds rate, which you could see on the red line here. And you can see, look, it largely did its job. As the Fed raised interest rates, you saw inflation start to come down. The Fed says, look, it's not yet mission accomplished on inflation, but now we're starting to see concerns that said, all right, let's cut interest rates by 0.5 percentage point today. Where was that concern? It was on the labor market side of things, where unemployment has been ticking up a little bit. Again, this chart, because it's kind of washed out by the 15% unemployment rate during the pandemic, you can't really see it, but it's risen from about 3.5% about a year and a half ago to 4.2% now. The Fed says, you know what? We don't want unemployment to go up too much higher. That's the reason why they cut interest rates today, Gadi.
And so if we do start seeing savings, where are they going to show up first?
Yeah, well, look, when it comes to the Federal Reserve cutting interest rates, that means that lots of other things that we need to borrow money to get will likely get cheaper. So if you take a look at mortgages, auto loans, credit card rates, here was the borrowing cost in 2020, right? Again, I don't need to remind a lot of people, when it came to getting a 30-year fixed mortgage, it was cheap, 3.5%. Yep. Let's take a look, though, at what it looks like today. Ouch. 6.1% is the average 30-year fix. Now, the reason why it's high is because the Fed was raising interest rates so much. So today, they cut interest rates by 0.5 percentage point. That means that we should expect to see the mortgage rates as well as these other types of product rates go down as well. It's not going to happen immediately, and it's also not going to go back to 3.5%, but you're going to get a little bit of marginal help, which for prospective home buyers could be some welcome news.
Prospective home buyers, but I mean, talking about the housing market, is now a good time to buy or possibly sell? What should people be expecting here?
Yeah, well, when it comes to the housing market, it always depends on what the conditions look like in your local market. But look, the big story here is that for borrowing costs, that's the biggest thing for a lot of Americans that have been, let's say, for example, on the sidelines saying, you know what, I don't even want to look at what mortgage rates are right now. We have to remember the 30-year fix actually peaked somewhere around 7.7% in October of last year. If you're a prospective home buyer, you're not probably thinking, all right, I want to get into this market. And if you're a home seller, if you list your home, you're probably not expecting to sell it anyway. But if the Fed is cutting interest rates, could that unlock the market, get more people back in? People that I've talked to have said, look, that's probably going to be the case. But again, those 3.5% mortgage rates, unfortunately, not coming back.
It almost sounds like you're saying that it's safe to reinstall Zillow on my phone, although I'll give it a few more months there. Brian
Don't tease yourself
thanks
too
so
much,
Bo. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. And coming up, Donald Trump packing an arena in a very blue New York. So why is the GOP presidential nominee even on Long Island? The answer is likely a little further down on the November ballot. We're going to explain. But first, you got to see this. There are a lot less snakes slithering around the Everglades after the annual Florida Python Challenge crowned its winner. And Rajul Kiger caught, get this, 20 Burmese pythons over the span of 10 days. That is 2 a day. In total, more than 800 competitors caught about 195 snakes. Last year, Kiger was the runner-up, which made winning the $10,000 grand prize this year that much sweeter. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Let's take a quick look around the world. 13 people were hurt in Russia after a major Ukrainian drone strike hit an ammunition depot. Now, that attack sparked explosions and evacuation of a town close by. Ukraine has been ramping up drone strikes inside Russia, targeting military sites, with Moscow claiming to have downed over 50 drones overnight. And Zimbabwe and Namibia are planning to kill hundreds of elephants and other wildlife because of huge food shortages caused by drought there. Zimbabwe will allow the killing of 200 elephants to distribute their meat to hungry communities. Both countries say their elephant populations have exceeded what their national parks can sustain due to rising temperatures and food scarcity. And Venezuela's government has arrested a 4th U.S. citizen in connection to an alleged scheme to assassinate leader Nicolas Maduro. The Interior Minister of Venezuela claims the plot involved the CIA and Spain's intelligence force. Meanwhile, a UN-backed report has criticized Maduro's regime for using harsh tactics against the opposition following Venezuela's disputed election in July. And the Princess of Wales has returned to the spotlight after taking a break for cancer treatment. The princess held a meeting at Windsor Castle focused on early education, marking her first official engagement since completing chemotherapy. And we are 48 days away from Election Day, and both campaigns are out on the trail making their pitch directly to voters. While Vice President Kamala Harris spoke to the Congressional Hispanic Caucus in D.C., former President Donald Trump is in the blue state of New York tonight, his first rally since Sunday, and what the FBI is calling an apparent attempt on his life.
Let me also deliver a message straight to Kamala Harris, the radical left Democrat politicians, and the fake news media. Look how many are there. It's time to stop the lies, stop the hoaxes, stop the smears, stop the lawfare and the fake lawsuits against me, and stop claiming your opponents will turn America into a dictatorship.
Now let's bring NBC's Ali Vitale. Ali, this is a very big venue behind you. There were some security concerns there over threats. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, of course, Gadi, those security threats always exist when you're talking about people who have Secret Service protection, who are national political figures. But certainly the landscape has only gotten more dire in the aftermath of both the Butler assassination attempt and the golf course incident this past weekend. For the former president, of course, the posture has looked the same from what we can physically see in these rallies as well as outside. But that doesn't mean that there wasn't heightened sensitivity and a heightened pressure on local and national law enforcement agencies as everyone converged on the Nassau Coliseum here. And in conversations that I had with law enforcement, we even began the day with a potential threat that was reported in that was quickly debunked by local law enforcement. But it showed sort of the dual efforts that they have to undertake, not just taking a defensive and proactive posture, but then also dealing with the potential for disinformation that gets out anyway. Listen to what the police commissioner here told me. You're combating disinformation as much as you're also guarding against security threats, right?
100%. And you know, social media is a great tool, but when it's abused, it makes us work harder. So everything's got to be run down. Every lead's got to be checked out. And at the end of the day, everybody goes home safe. We go home safe.
And of course, the police commissioner was clear in saying he was 100% confident in the safety of this event,
Ali Vitale, can you explain this to us? With just 48 days to go, we see Trump there in New York. It's not Michigan. It's not Wisconsin. It's not traditionally a battleground state. But Nassau County, New York? Like, what's the deal there?
So look, battleground state, that is not New York. Battleground island, as one of the congressmen out here said, maybe, especially when you consider the fact that if you start looking at Long Island, the closer you are to Manhattan, yes, the bluer the demographics of the district, but the further out you get onto the island, it does become more red, it does become more conservative. And so maybe this is not a battleground for Trump, though he has said tonight that he thinks he could win New York. I am not sold on that, and years of history and polling are also not. But this is the path for House Republicans to keep the majority. This is one of those districts in 2022. It flipped from blue to red. This is where House Republicans won the gavel 2 years ago, and it's where they need to maintain it if they want to keep control of that chamber. This is a clear sign for why Trump is here. He's saying it's the presidential, but in practice, it's actually with the House of Representatives in mind.
Interesting. Ali Vitale reporting there from Battleground Island. Thank you, Ali. And over on Capitol Hill, concerns about election interference is now top of mind for lawmakers. There were a group of tech executives from Meta, Alphabet, and Microsoft that were testifying in front of the Senate Intelligence Committee today, talking about what the companies are trying to do to fight disinformation, including AI-generated content. But you know who wasn't there? Anyone from X, formerly known as Twitter. NBC's Ryan Nobles has more on all of it.
This high-stakes hearing served as a warning to tech companies to make sure to get things in line as we get closer to Election Day. But it also served as a message to voters to not believe everything they read. Tonight, the Senate Intelligence Committee warning the overseas efforts to interfere with the 2024 election is already underway. From Russia, Iran, China, and others.
Other nation states who figured out that it's easy to spread misinformation and disinformation and try to interfere in our elections.
Senators say overseas actors are using artificial intelligence to create web pages that mimic traditional news sites, pointing to one example, falsely claiming there were 3 potential shooters in the assassination attempt of former President Trump in Pennsylvania. The main goal of these false posts, senators warn, is not to push for a particular candidate, but to sow dissension and raise doubt in the American political system. And they say the tech companies need to do more to stop it.
You don't need to have a big, expensive operation to pursue some of this. I think we should anticipate that in the years to come, and it's happening already.
The tech platforms argued they've made great strides in detecting false posts, sometimes with the help of AI.
Just this morning, we saw a Russian group put online an AI-enhanced video putting into Vice President Harris's words at a rally words she never spoke.
That post was taken down. Not appearing at today's hearing, a representative from Elon Musk's X, formerly known as Twitter, a platform that Chairman Warner described as committing some of the most egregious misinformation activities.
Hey, welcome back, and here are the stories that are happening out west that we're following right now. There's a massive house fire in Monrovia, California that rocked a neighborhood yesterday after some say what sounded like an explosion. Now, no one was hurt, but officials are investigating the cause, and they're still looking for one of the people that lived inside. And Washington has officially closed its execution chamber, marking the end of an era after the state abolished the death penalty in 2023. Since 1904, 78 people were executed there by hanging or lethal injection. The closure is mostly symbolic, as the room will remain intact for historical purposes. And California Governor Gavin Newsom signed a law yesterday to protect actors from the unauthorized use of AI. Now, the law allows performers to back out of contracts with vague language, preventing studios from freely using AI to clone their voices or likenesses without permission. California is one of the first states to take this step as lawmakers work to try and regulate the AI industry. And climate change is making our summers hotter, with some parts of the country spending more than half of their summer feeling some pretty unbearable temperatures. Places like Puerto Rico, South Florida, Arizona, Las Vegas, Texas, even Hawaii. But that's not all. That extreme heat is becoming increasingly deadly. And NBC News national climate reporter Chase Kane explains.
Some call extreme heat the invisible killer or silent killer because it doesn't have the shock of a hurricane, tornado, or flood.
The impact of heat on our health is a bit of a paradox because we know that it's the #1 weather and climate-related cause of death in the U.S., but we don't know just how deadly it is. For example, official records count roughly 2,300 heat-related deaths last year, with more than 3/4 of them from these 6 states. But a study from Texas A&M projects the actual number could be 4 times greater, possibly 11,000 Americans dying from extreme heat last year. But why such a big difference?
You know, one of the big challenges in medicine is understanding why is a patient in front of you. With heat, it can be complicated.
Dr. Gupta is an NBC News medical contributor and pulmonologist at the University of Washington. He explains that heat can cause or trigger so many different health problems, it can be challenging for doctors to untangle the root cause.
We don't often talk about heat as a direct killer. That's really important. The more that we are talking about this, the more it makes clinicians more aware that this is a problem, because it's going to allow us to better understand the impact and the magnitude heat is having on human health.
And the magnitude is unclear because there's no uniform standard for how to classify or track heat-related deaths.
And without that granular level of examining every single one of thousands of data points, you really don't get that level of detail. So really the numbers that we have are the most conservative numbers. And even then, those are trending upward.
Trending upward since 2016, right along with our temperatures. The 10 hottest years on record have been the last 10 years, largely because of climate change. And that's prompted cities like Los Angeles, Phoenix, and Miami to hire chief heat officers as their summers just keep getting hotter.
We can't just adapt our way out of this problem. We need to bring the emissions down globally. And so even as I'm seeking solutions to increasing extreme heat and the health and economic burdens associated with it, i.e. tree planting, energy efficient homes, those are great solutions that will help us both adapt and solve the root cause of the problem.
It's such a big problem. Chase Kane joins us now in the studio. Now, given the sheer amount of heat-related deaths, is this technically considered like a natural disaster?
It's not, but there was a group of labor unions and environmental justice groups, doctors who filed a formal petition with FEMA this summer to make it a formal disaster declaration. One of the reasons is because there's a couple of reports that show that the economic impact of heat on the U.S. is more than $100 billion every year. Wow. For context, all other disasters last year combined were about $95 billion. So heat is truly having an outsized impact.
Yeah, that puts it into perspective. And you mentioned, 11,000 deaths. It's hard to wrap your mind around. And I'm scared to ask, but is that definitely all of them, or could that number be higher?
It's really just their best guess of these researchers, because it's such a difficult thing to basically get every doctor, every hospital, every local government on board with the same criteria, with the same standard. And so they're really, using their, essentially like their best guess, right? They're using data to try and say, we think it's actually 11,000, but of course it could actually be higher.
Well, hopefully something's done soon. Chase Kane, thanks so much for being with us. And in tonight's Future of Everything, we are taking a look at conspiracy theories, whether it's the moon landing or my personal favorite, the Roswell crash. They are everywhere these days, right? But there's a new technology powered by OpenAI looking to now wade into the world of debunking. And NBC News Now anchor Hallie Jackson explains.
Conspiracy theories about everything from the assassination of John F. Kennedy to what really happened on January 6th. Persistent in politics and beyond. But now, new tech may point toward a potential breakthrough. Meet DebunkBot, powered by OpenAI and created by researchers at MIT, Cornell, and American, who say it can help reduce people's beliefs in conspiracies significantly.
So let's go in that direction.
We tried it out with one of the brains behind the bot, Thomas Costello, with a conspiracy that decades of debunking hasn't eradicated.
It's one small step for man.
I believe the moon landing is not real.
Right.
I don't believe that. I don't actually believe that.
The bot asks us to elaborate on the belief.
And why is the flag waving?
Yeah.
And to rate how strongly we feel about it.
I'm going to say 99% true.
Then, in a series of screens, the chatbot presents facts, lots of them.
How can you be sure that what it's telling me here is accurate?
Yeah, so absolutely. We found that it tends to be quite accurate. We hired a professional fact checker to go through some of the conversations in our study, a subset, and in 99.2% of cases that we looked at, the fact checker rated the AI's claims as true.
At the end, we reassess how strongly we feel about the belief now. And it's here where researchers found something that surprised them.
Yeah. On average, people reduced their belief by about 20%.
And consistent across a wide range of conspiracies on topics from Princess Diana to vaccinations, they found 1 in 4 participants disavowed the belief altogether.
I think if you gave the facts to a semi-competent lawyer, the lawyer would make a much more persuasive case than the AI does. It's just that the lawyer would have to do all this background or research, and the AI can conjure it up in 12 seconds.
But in reality, getting folks to engage at all could be tough.
What makes you think that somebody who believes in a conspiracy theory is going to go on here and type it in so that their minds can be changed?
Yeah, well, so I would say that a lot of conspiracy theorists end up being motivated by truth and accuracy. Going to a chatbot interface that provides factual information, it seems like a good way to do that to me.
Like most technology, it can cut both ways.
You could imagine a version of this that spreads conspiracy theories.
The DebunkBot team now working on refining the tech, hoping it helps shine a light down conspiratorial rabbit holes.
We can use facts to open up the top of the rabbit hole to begin to crawl out.
A belief worth further research. Hallie Jackson, NBC News, Washington.
Okay, Hallie, so did Roswell actually happen? Aliens, ChatGPT? No verified You know what? Whatever. Hallie Jackson, thank you. Now let's move to the future of robotics and some pretty eye-catching new research coming in from Google. That's where they're training a robot to play ping pong against humans. Now this machine went up against 29 people, won about half of the matches. On our human side, we had everything from beginners to some table tennis rock stars, with the robot clearly struggling to keep up against our own, human table tennis terminators. Take a look. It turns out today's robots still struggle with the nuanced movements humans can react to in real time, think threading a needle or opening a jar. For most of us, it's almost reflex. For robots, not so much. But speaking of reflex, Google says it has started to use this new approach to solve the whole dexterity challenge by having its robots learn from human examples. They copy people doing real-world things like tying a shoelace there and hanging clothing, and combined with some AI, the robots were able to learn pretty quick and even get better at the tasks as they went. Now, the results are far from perfect, but Google researchers are hoping that this could possibly be like a step towards creating robots that can perform everyday tasks with the same ease as us humans. And joining us now is the director of robotics at Google DeepMind, Carolina Parada. Thank you so much for being with us. Let's start with the table tennis, because I understand you play table tennis. You actually played against a robot. How did that go?
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I mean, that robot is incredibly fun to play against. I'm actually a pretty poor table tennis player, and it was incredibly fun for me. I would rate myself as definitely a beginner. And completely.
Carolina, how do you teach a robot to get better?
Right. I mean, one of the key things, this is essentially one of our moonshot projects that has been, we've been working on it for a long time. And there were many things that contributed towards making this possible. One of the key things is that we actually enable the robot to play against humans very easy turns at the very beginning. And then it would capture all of those trajectories of those plays and then put them in simulation and then practice on its own in simulation quite a bit. So sort of like dreaming after having a lesson.
Interesting. Dreaming and lots of practice. That's wild. I mean, how soon do you think it'll be until we see like a human never beat a robot at table tennis? Because that's already happened in chess, right?
Well, we really don't know. We right now are sort of at amateur level of table tennis playing, and sometimes it can take just as much time to get to the level that we are, to get to essentially expert level. But the truth is that the robot gets better the more it plays against people, because actually what it's doing is that it's learning. Every time you play against it, it's actually learning from that experience, then replaying that in simulation and practicing, and then the next day it actually gets better.
Practice makes perfect. It's so wild that, like, I'm watching all these things. I have a 3-year-old daughter, and like the way I motivate her is saying, you can do hard things. You can do hard, and then she like pushes herself. When it comes to robots, I mean, that's a lot easier to do. You've got programming, but the shirt and the shoelace demonstrations, they had a success rate between 70 and 75% of the time. What makes something like that so hard?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we call dexterity, or our general goal is to achieve human level dexterity, which is extremely hard because it really requires very high precision and fast movements. It also really requires understanding the physics and of the objects that you're manipulating. In this case, what we learned, and it was even to the surprise of the researchers, is that if you can actually demonstrate pretty intuitively to a robot how to actually do the tasks, then it actually can just learn from your demonstrations and get to the degrees of performance that we have today. Now, these robots are actually trained for each one of these particular tasks. What we're really after is a robot that is fully general, and it can do not only shoelace tying and t-shirt hanging, but it can also like help you bake a cake, and it can also play ping pong against you. So that kind of general intelligence is really what we're after.
Talking about that general intelligence, so like again, my 3-year-old, like loop, swoop, and pull, she kind of understands that, or the bunny ears, because she understands that world plus the physics plus everything. When you're talking about a robot that can teach itself with all the rules of physics, is there some translation between teaching a robot how to play ping pong and how physics works there to doing some of these high dexterity functions?
Yes, absolutely. I think that the more that the robot can be exposed to many different to data that captures different behaviors, then the more that it can learn how to translate that between different tasks. And the ultimate goal is that you have a robot that can interact with humans, that can reason about what sequence of tasks to do, and then it can actually like understand the motions in a way that generalizes to any new task that you want to give it.
And can let us win when it senses that we need a win. I guess that's the future of robotics, right? Catalina, thank you so much for joining us. What exciting stuff.
Thank you for having me.
And that's going to do it for us tonight. I'm Gadi Schwartz. We'll see you here tomorrow, but until then, stay tuned now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app, or follow us on social media.